Hello dear learners, I am Dr. Ushwinder Kaur from Swami Shraddhanand College, Department of Geography, Delhi University. Welcome here. I am here to talk about water pollution and its impact on health. The main aim of this module is to understand various concepts related to water pollution, its causes, types and solutions. We would try to understand the impact on health of people who are exposed to polluted sources. We will try to identify various diseases caused by water pollution and their impacts on human health. Water pollution, according to World Health Organization, says that polluted water is water that whose composition has been changed to an extent that it is unusable, non-drinkable and it cannot be used for various purposes. In other words, it is toxic water that cannot be drunk or used for essential purposes like agriculture, domestic uses, and it, if consumed, will cause diseases like diarrhea, cholera, dysentery, typhoid and other diseases. The main water pollutants included are bacteria, viruses, pesticides, fertilizers, parasites which are coming because of various biodegradable waste which are disposed into the water surfaces, pharmaceutical products, nitrates, phosphorus, plastics, etc. Various kinds of pollutants are being dissolved in the water and they have trace harmful metals and minerals. Even some substances have radioactive substances which can cause long lasting impact on people who are consuming that water. The substance do not always change the color of the water, meaning that often the pollutants are invisible, but the pollutants are existing in the water and they can create lot of damage to the people who are consuming those water. Not only nature but human activities and mismanagement also causes water pollution. Let's have a glance at various human activities causing water pollution. Pollutants in water could be point sources in which pollution is from discrete locations. It can be single sewer pipe discharge or a factory or an industrial unit or a runoff from a single farm. So, it is a very localized impact on the water body which is getting the pollutant from various sources are largely from non-point sources where the contamination takes place over a larger area and there could be multiple source points which are generating the pollution. Water bodies like river, lakes, ponds and seas, oceans are contaminated by multiple sources like urban discharges, agricultural runoff in form of pesticides, fertilizers, etc., oil spills and untreated industrial discharges. Pollutants in water and water pollutants can be in form of inorganic matter, organic matter, biological and natural pollutants based on their nature. When we talk about organic pollutants, includes fats and greases and oxygen demanding substances which are generated at waste from various food processing units. Like for example, what the chips we eat or the french fries we eat, they are of course discharging the grease and the oil which are not in use. Disinfectants in drink are also causing water pollution when we are chlorinating the water and the water has become more dense and many a times the chlorinated water has some kind of pathogens which can impact the human body. There are large number of industrial solvents which can leak into the water during the course of discharge and these could lead to degrading the water bodies nearby the industries. Along the agricultural fields which use various kind of fungicides, herbicides and pesticides, there are large number of seepages into the neighboring water bodies, canals, lakes or ponds. Debris from forest cutting sites like timber, bushes, branches can also cause pollution which looks very degradable in its nature, but they create lot of biomass which can create pollution into the neighboring water bodies. There are various kind of industrial effluents and they are called as dirty dozens where we are including infectants like DDT, edrin, endrin, benzoate, chloride and carcinogenic polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. Inorganic pollutants which include metals and minerals like copper, zinc, lead, nitrate, cadmium, phosphorus, ammonia and phosphates which have iron traces in the environment and these pollutants enter water through industrial discharges from power plants in various forms of sulfur dioxide, nitrate, phosphates from fertilizers, and also from residential and commercial usages. Ammonia from food processing units and discharges from the mining sites also lead to degradation of the water bodies. Emissions from motor vehicles also create a layer of dust in the neighboring water bodies. Biological pollutants in form of pollen, bacteria, dust of course have an impact on the water bodies and degrades its nature. There are various kind of plants and soils from warm-blooded animals including humans, pollens, plants, viruses. From humans and animals, they also get intruded into the neighboring water bodies. Radioactive pollutants from nuclear plants can also penetrate. Sometimes there could be some nuclear disasters or leakages which can of course penetrate into the neighboring water surfaces or sources and of course degrade its quality, and making them electrically charged may not be usable for consumption. Medical treatment and diagnostic weapons and products like syringes, various kind of bandages, etc., which are very infectious in nature, can also act as a pollutant in the water surfaces. The kinds of pollutants which we see can also cause cancer and also damage tissues in human bodies. Once organisms use these contaminated water, whether it is human beings or whether it is animals or birds, there is going to be some kind of health issues faced by consuming these kind of pollutants. Not only that, there are three major water sources which are there on the earth's surface. First is surface water, second is groundwater, and the third is marine water surfaces. So, when we talk about surface water, we are talking about the channels which are there like rivers, lakes, streams, and of course, the runoff which carries lot of pollutants, because most of our industries, most of our agricultural fields are using chemicals which can penetrate with the runoff to the neighboring water sources. Surface water consists of water channels above the ground such as river, lakes, etc., but they get polluted because of the runoff from various surfaces. Not only that, there could be increase in the contents of salts and chemicals from industries and fertilizers, and nutrients from agricultural farms and gardens can also lead to nutrient pollution in the neighboring water sources. Causes of surface water pollution can vary. They can be starting from metal toxics along with persistent organics and inorganic chemicals generated by industrial waste. Even human waste through sewage networks are directly getting into the water surfaces without any treatment. So, pathogens in form of bacteria and viruses are going to be concentrated in the water bodies, which could be very harmful for the health of the individuals who are consuming that particular water sources. Agricultural discharges can also have a degrading impact on the water quality in the areas which are drained by high yielding varieties and utilization of large number of fertilizers. So, runoffs is an important component because they are creating pollutants, because when rivers are coming from the mountainous area, they are not carrying any debris except for the silt, but the pollutants are added by the human activities which is causing the pollution of these water bodies and contaminating them. We need to understand that the another form of water is groundwater, which is basically the water surfaces which are beneath the earth's surface. They are not easily contaminated because they are beneath the earth's surfaces, but once contaminated they cannot be repaired soon because of non-accessibility by most of the areas by human beings. Now, this can take place especially in the mining areas. When mining takes place, a lot of deep drilling takes place and some kind of trace metals get invaded into the underground water channels and aquifers. So, impact of water pollution in underground water channels can be analyzed by how human activities and human negligence can create issue in the underground water channels also. Like for example, in Bhopal gas tragedy of 1984, there was gas leakage which caused tragedy because of the health reasons among the people who were residing in Bhopal and the neighboring areas, but there was also significant proof that contaminated gas also penetrated almost 40 meters deep into the earth's surface, and it had polluted an area of about 3.5 kilometers around the factory. So almost 40,000 persons who have consumed water in past 14 to 20 years from these areas in form of hand pumps or those which are machine made drilled out water from these surfaces are witnessing skin, lungs, brain and kidney and liver ailments, and sometimes which are very prevalent in the community anywhere where we find that where groundwater is not healthy enough, like we can see fluoride issue in Rajasthan because of the groundwater has got high contents of fluoride, and that causes degradation of teeth among people and bones among the people who are consuming that polluted water. Another major source of water pollutants is domestic sewage. Domestic sewage is primary source of pathogens, disease causing microorganisms. Pathogens are excreted as feces, all sewage from the city and towns, and potentially it is creating a threat to the public health. So, the organics and the decomposed products naturally in the sewage are bacteria and other microorganisms, and it also impacts the dissolved oxygen. Contents of water is depleting because of heavy availability or heavy occurrence of these pathogens. It creates less availability of oxygen for the fishes and the aquatic organisms, and it becomes difficult for them to survive. And it can also cause eutrophication of water, and weeds and other bodies can of course create a kind of oxygen stopping belt in these areas. So, various pharmaceutical companies also discharge effluents into the neighboring water bodies. There are other gases which are released because of the decaying or dead algae. They are methane and hydrogen sulfides which are harmful and will disturb the balance of other life forms within the aquatic bodies. The process by which the river or the lake changes from a clear condition with relatively low concentration of nutrients, because of pollution they are creating a more denser water, and pollutants of course dissolve nutrients, create balanced aquatic community to a nutrient rich algae filled state. Hence, to an oxygen deficit, waste filled condition is called as eutrophication. Now, to get a glimpses of various water channels, few examples: the waters of river Ganga flow clear when it coming from Gangotri, and when it reaches Rishikesh it is pretty okay, but by the time it comes to the all low lying areas, there we find that because of a huge basin of the river Ganga and lot of tributaries are joining river Ganga, lot of domestic waste is being discharged into the water body, and thereby increasing the bacterial load to about 31 million per 100 milliliters of water. So, it is a huge bacterial load which is making the river very unhealthy for either consumption or even for bathing. So, we really need to take care and restore the holy Ganga, sacred Ganga, because otherwise it will be no longer, because it will becoming a stinking river if we do not take care of this river, and the synonym of being a sacred river will no longer be of much use. Now, pollution is a worldwide problem. It is not affecting one particular area, but it is almost affecting 1 in 3 people on the planet Earth. India, being the largest in population size, has huge networks of rivers, surface channels of more than 14 major rivers, but many of these rivers are polluted, and we need to take care of these river systems. Water pollution is a major problem in India. Only 10% of wastewater generated is treated. The rest is discharged as it is not into the water bodies without any kind of treatment. So, alarmingly, a number of studies of both freshwater and marine water locations have found microplastics in every aquatic organism tested. These tiny plastics are suspected of working their way up to the marine food chains, from zooplankton and small fishes to large marine predators, have been found in seafood. So, microplastics have also been detected in drinking water. Their health effects are unknown as yet. But of course, anything which is synthetic may not be very healthy for any one of us. Then there are certain toxic chemicals which are also discharged into the water bodies. They could be poisonous in nature, radioactive, explosive, carcinogenic and mutative in nature, which can of course mutate the chromosomes of aquatic wildlife, and the people who are consuming those aquatic wildlife can also lead to birth defects among people who are using or in the second chain of consuming these aquatic animals, can of course cause to severe health issues among the consumers. The toxic chemicals include improperly disposed into the water bodies by industrial plants, chemical processes, chemical components like lead, mercury and chromium, as well as surface runoff containing pesticides can of course create a huge havoc into the water body system and disturbing the whole balance of it. The heat is also a component which can of course disturb the water temperature, and of course it can impact the type of aquatic life which is living in these water bodies. So, and of course if the water is heated, the dissolved oxygen component can also vary because of the heating of water body and will affect the metabolism of fishes. Valuable species, game fish, trout cannot survive in water with very less levels of dissolved oxygen. A major source of heat is practice of discharging cooling water from power plants into the rivers. Discharge water may also be as much as 15 degrees Celsius warmer than the naturally occurring water. So, basically what we are trying to do is hydroelectric plants, which when we build, we are building it through big pipe systems which are generating electricity, and we are disposing that warm water into the rivers, and they are of course creating increasing temperature levels among the water bodies. The sediment discharge, basically when we are doing deforestation, we are loosening the soil and we are leading to soil erosion, and of course it is impacting in the form of silt in these water bodies. Along with that, there could be some petroleum accidents which can lead to oil spills into the water bodies. Dear learners, let us now try to visualize what are the major natural sources of water pollution. Landslides. Landslides are of natural origin. Many a times our mountains are made up of softer material and they get degraded over time with runoff during the rainy season especially, and that soil erosion can also lead to depletion of the top layer of the surface and thereby causing slumping, soil mass wastage and landslides. Another way of pollutants entering into our system, water system, is through biodegradable waste in form of plants, trees, residues into the neighboring areas. Sometimes volcanic eruption also have an impact by generating the water pollution. Many a times these volcanic ash, which is high in various toxic materials like iron and other metals, trace metals, also cause water pollution. There are various activities by animals which also disintegrate plants and soil and also can lead to water pollution into the neighboring water areas or the rivers or the ponds. Natural bleaching of the soil can also lead to water pollution in these sources. There is also mineral leakage into the water bodies because of disintegration of rocks and weathering of rocks, and sometimes rock falls also lead to big pieces and boulders of rocks into the water surfaces, thereby increasing the silt level among the water bodies. Mass wasting of soil can also lead to increasing the silt content into the water body, increasing the water pollutant level. Also, the humus content found in the land surfaces also bleach into the water bodies during the rainy season. And then there are certain animals which are of course biological animals which are also impacted by the eutrophication of water bodies. Contamination in the food chain can lead to disturbing the balance in the water body and thereby also impacting the number of fishes, the types of fishes, and they can also be altered in their genetic makeup. There are various kind of harmful chemicals which are discharge into the water bodies, and sometimes even the livestock also are consuming, or the animals which are consuming directly from the water bodies are getting infected or getting diseased because of these kind of pollutions. People around the world have no access to clean water or to drink or sanitation, particularly in rural areas, because most of these areas do not have piped water supply, and they are using either the wells or the rivers for their daily usage. Disease, according to World Health Organization, estimates that 2 billion people have no option but to drink contaminated water, and exposing them to diseases such as cholera, hepatitis A, dysentery. Also, infant mortality rates are high in communities which are drinking contaminated water. According to United Nations, diarrheal diseases linked to lack of hygiene cause of death of about 1000 children a day worldwide. Water pollution and its impact on the health, we will try to assess how it is impacting the health of the individuals and the society as a whole. Water pollution has a significant influence on the health of the individuals and the society. Not only human beings but also animals and livestock are also impacted by water pollutants. There are variations in the region, age category, economic strata and the conditions of the community which will have an impact on how much damage of consuming what is available to the community is varying according to your economic strata also. The various diseases which are caused by pollutants are diarrhea, which is largely transmitted by enteroviruses in aquatic environments. According to a World Water Development Report released in 2021 by UNESCO, the globally 8,29,000 people die each year from diarrhea. The main reason are unsafe polluted drinking water, poor sanitation conditions, improper hand hygiene. The developing countries like India portray direct relation with the polluted water consumption and gastrointestinal diseases. Lack of pure water and poor sanitation conditions cause increasing incidences of cholera and trichodoma, etc. Unhealthy environmental hygiene and unsafe drinking water reduces the nutrient absorption and malnutrition. The effects can be seen stunted growth among small children in low income countries and low income strata in Indian population. And that is why, because if it's regular dysentery or diarrhea among the young children, then it is very difficult for them to put on weight or to have good height or to have a good weight. So, there are a lot of negative impacts of water pollution directly on the human health. Consuming water contaminated by sewage is really very detrimental on the health of individuals. The WHO notes that globally 2 million people are drinking water sources which are contaminated by fecal contaminants, which are contaminated by fecal matter, and they are responsible for dysentery, diarrhea, polio and thyroid, etc. According to United Nations, every year approximately 2,97,000 children under the age of 5 years die from diseases linked to poor sanitation, poor hygiene or poor unsafe drinking water. Person who injects chemical toxin in their water can be at risk of cancer, hormone disruption, altered brain function, and also altering the immune systems and reproductive systems, cardiovascular and kidney problems. Swimming in contaminated waters can also trigger rashes, pink eye, respiratory infections along with hepatitis. Water pollution from industry, chemical effluents are causing skin cancers. The number of carcinogenic materials like nitrates, arsenic, chromium are highly related to cancers. The amount of pollutant load in drinking water depends on where they enter, like contamination of water source or during the water treatment process or when it is delivered to the user. Many a times we find that our pipelines are broken and there some kind of sewage water is also interacting with our domestic water, and of course it is going to be contaminated by mixing of the sewer water with the drinkable water. So, these can cause various kind of diseases like cancer, skin allergies and impact the bladder, and many a times in such areas bladder cancer or abdominal cancers are increasing. Nitrates in water are closely related to various kind of cancer, especially in the rectal area. High concentration of chromium in the is leading to gastric cancers incidences. Carcinogenics are sometimes introduced during the chlorine treatment of drinking water, which is associated with all types of cancers including urinary tract, bladder, gastrointestinal. Pesticide, fertilizer, etc. also releases nitrates and increase the toxicity of nitrogen, and of course increases the incidences of cancer and of course mortality among the individuals. Neurological problems. The harmful chemicals in polluted water may aggravate the neurological issues like attention deficit hyperactivity syndrome, which is quite common among children nowadays due to use of polluted water for a long period of time. Lead poisoning, this could be caused due to discharge of dangerous chemicals untreated into the water bodies or old rusted pipes containing, which are carrying the water and it is contaminating the water because of the metal nature of these pipes, and they are rusted over the time, and they can of course add those rust into the water surfaces. Then there are excessive metals in body can cause anemia, reproductive system disorders, high blood pressure, etc. Arsenic in the water bodies can also create a lot of cancers among the people who are utilizing the water from these contaminated areas. It could lead to bladder, lungs, kidney and skin cancers. Then another pathogens which occur in the contaminated bodies are intestinal worms like hookworms, roundworms, helminths and whipworms, which are examples of different kind of worms which are parasitic in their nature, and they are spread by drinking contaminated water or eating the fruits and vegetables which are washed or grown in infected water, like we see in many areas along the Yamuna, where people are selling vegetables which are grown into the by using the contaminated water, and they might look healthy, but they might not be healthy in their inherent quality because they are grown by the water which is really contaminated. Diarrhea is another major disease which is due to intestinal infection caused by drinking water which is containing microorganisms from human and animal feces or by food poisoning. We must take measures to improve the water quality and water supply. So, clean water and good sanitation practices reduces infant mortality rates among the population. Prevention of water pollution is very important because it leads to otherwise the water pollution can increase the amount of carbon dioxide among the water surfaces. Because of global warming and acidification of oceans, we can lead to more contamination of water bodies and less availability of oxygen in the water bodies, thereby degrading its quality further. Reduce of use of chemical pesticides and nutrients on the crops can of course help to reduce the amount which is being discharged into the water bodies or seeping into the water bodies. Restrict the use of single use plastics and that end up floating into the river, lakes and oceans, and many as microplastics. So, let us start by understanding what are the various solutions for combating water pollution. A person who wishes to reduce water pollution can help by reducing the plastic use and recycling the plastic when and wherever possible. Disposing household chemicals properly, keeping up with the maintenance of their vehicles to ensure it is not leaking harmful substances, avoiding using pesticides, making the sustainable choices regarding food and drinks, considering only vegan or vegetarian diets, a focus on water quality at point of use with interventions to improve the water quality including chlorination and safe storage. Healthy life can be done only by educating and by our young generation as well as older generation in order to be more environmentally friendly, environmentally sound and healthy environment to live in. We need to educate the residents on sanitary water through newspapers, magazines, television, internet and other social media to enhance the public health and awareness. People should be aware about the problems which they are creating to the nature and to their own health in the near future. So, health awareness is of foremost importance. Train farmers to avoid overuse of agriculture chemicals that contaminates drinking water, and trains like cancer trains going from Bathinda to Gandhinagar is one example where too much of use of pollutants are causing cancer among the farmers and they need to go for their treatment to another place. So, we need to understand that contamination of water is not conducive for any person or environment as such. Groundwater contamination, assessment, prevention and remedial efforts should be taken in order to reduce the pollutant content in these water bodies and recharge it with fair water from rainwater harvesting and improving their quality. We need to put in quality engineering in natural systems, fate and transport process in water environment. Let us have an example. Now as we have discussed the aspect of river Ganga, which is very pristine and blue when it is starting from Gangotri, and by the time it comes to the plains it has become very polluted. One of the tributary of Ganga is Yamuna, and Yamuna is very close, flowing in the NCR region, has witnessed lot of degradation because of contamination of water through various sources. One issue is that there are numerous dams which are built on river Yamuna, so the flow of water has reduced, so that also adds to the pollutant content being very dense and making the river look like a nala rather than a river. So, river Yamuna plays a very significant role in religious practices, that idols of Ganesha and Ma Durga are being immersed in the river, and these idols are made up of plaster of Paris and they are degrading the water quality of the river, which is already hardly any water is during the lean season. Socioeconomic significance of the river is that it is part of the Indo-Gangetic plain, and it is supposed to provide water, silt and other material to the river Ganga. But most of it is largely discharged and hardly any water supply is provided to the river Ganga, and the pollution levels are extremely high in the river Ganga. Now an image which can be seen where there is a kind of white froth on river Yamuna, which is not snow, it is the chemicals which has been depositing and lying on the surface of the water. By just looking at the site of this, you can understand that hardly any amount of oxygen can penetrate into the water body, and hardly any kind of aquatic life can sustain in this kind of pitiable condition of river Yamuna. So, these chemicals, which are of course very scary, and these chemicals are generating this froth, and large number of chemical industries, whether they are from the, and most of these pollution creating industries have been sent to the outskirts of Delhi, and these industries are not checked properly, and most of them are polluting the nearby water bodies, especially the canals and the river which is around it. And they are of course showing the high levels of ammonia in river, which is almost 3 parts per million of the water body. So, that is very damaging to the river system as such, as well as the aquatic life, and it is very hazardous for the people who are living in the floodplain area, which are people who are generally very poor and they cannot afford a better quality of life. So, these people are very prone to diseases, diarrhea and dysentery. So, we need to be cautious while protecting our water bodies in order to protect ourselves and our coming generations. So, dear learners, I hope it was a very insightful lecture on water pollution and its damage on the health systems in the people who are residing in the polluted water zone areas. So, as a student, we should understand that we should try to protect our environment starting from our household level by segregating our waste, by utilizing what can be reused, and most possibly produce very less waste. And we should try to reuse water, like for example, if we are using washing our vegetables or our dals or other activities, and you can use this water for watering our plants or cleaning our vehicles. So, at a basic ground level, at a personal level, everybody should take initiatives, then only regionally, nationally and internationally the consensus will be built to have a more cleaner, safer water for everybody to consume. Thank you very much for your patient listening.